Greetings guys, it's Irish. In this video I thought I would do an updated guide to Arch Linux. This is the way that I do it anytime I have to restart from fresh on my Arch machine. So there's a few things I do a little differently. Um, I'll the major thing is I'm not going to do the Arch Linux FR repo to get Yowert. I'm going to do it through a way that Meshi has showed in one of his videos called it's through makepkg. So in this virtual machine I set up, it's 8 gigs of memory and it's a 30 gig hard drive and 3 processing cores. So there should be more than enough to do it. So I'm going to put this in scale mode really fast. Right control. Let's make this a little big. I'm going to try to do most of this based off of memory. So forgive me if I stumble through a little bit of it, but I think I've installed Arch a few times to know how to do it properly. So yeah, there's this in this ISO. It's very nice that you can actually you actually have the repos right off the bat, so which is cool. So first thing I do is make sure I have an internet connection. So I just ping. If you are doing this based off of Wi-Fi, you would just say Wi-Fi menu. And it'll have a nice ncurses menu. So first thing before I do anything, I'm going to synchronize the package databases. And we're going to get Reflector. It will make this this installation go by a lot faster. So it's the only reason we're doing this right now. It doesn't technically have to be done right now, but it's just a lot simpler. So we just say pacman-s reflector. Now reflector is a package that helps you find the latest and the best mirrors in your country. So once you have it installed, you just say reflector-c and then the country. -F for fastest, and we'll say 15. -L is for the latest. Verbose, and save to etc pacman.d mirror list. So this will find the fastest and the latest 15 mirrors. So everything should go by a lot faster. So we're going to clear this out. Now the one thing we're going to do is partition our disk. In my opinion, and in probably many people's opinion, that partitioning the disk is very, it's the most complicated thing of any installation process. Now, in a lot of, I can make a whole video on this if you would like my viewpoints on partitioning, but you could do separate partitions for root, swap, var, temp, and your home. Probably do the home because just in case anything happens to your OS and you have to reinstall it, you don't have to reinstall and re-add everything in your home partition. That's why I have it here. So I'm going to use cfdisk because that's the one I'm most comfortable with, but if we do fdisk -L, you'll see that SDA is our 30 gig hard drive, so that's what we're going to use. cfdisk dev SDA. So GBT is more for EFI, and then DOS is for like legacy. So if you don't have an EFI one, then you would do DOS, and then these are for the different types of computers, so Sun. So we're just going to do DOS. We're going to say new. I like to put a separate boot partition, so I'm going to say 512 megabytes primary, and make sure that this is bootable. And then so for the root partition, I believe that the rule of thumb is that you would need maybe 20 to 30 gigabytes would be plenty. On my system, I have 80 just because I do install a lot of applications. It depends on if you're just going to use your system for web browsing, general use. But if you're going to install a lot of applications, your root folder or your root partition should be pretty big because there'll be a lot of configuration files, and that's where the OS actually sits. So since we don't have a lot of room, we'll just do the rest of it in here. Normally I would do a home partition, but for this sake, we'll just do it with just 2 partitions. So we'll say write, type in yes, and now we're going to quit. So next thing we're going to do is make our file systems. So for the boot partition, you can make it in ext2 or 3. 3 has journaling, 2 does not. So I usually just do ext2 and say sda1. And then for our root partition, the most common one is ext4 or extension 4. But you can do XFS, Btrfs, any of the other ones that you want. So we'll just make that. So now if we just lift this out, you'll notice that we have a 512 gigabyte boot partition, and then the rest of it is for our root. So now we need a mount. So we'll mount the root first. So dev sda2 to mnt. And then we have to make, if you do decide to do a separate boot partition, you do have to make the folder. So mnt boot, now mount dev sda1 to boot. Now I've been experiencing some weird issues with this in VirtualBox. For whatever reason, the dev sda1 keeps unmounting at one point of the installation. So just making sure that it is mounted. So now, once everything is mounted, we can do a pack strap mnt base devel vim git nettools sudo grub. Sudo is actually included in the base devel. The base devel is development stuff. So we'll just do that really fast. So if you did not sync the mirrors before, it will sync them now. And then this will get all the stuff that you need for a base Arch install. So I will come back once this is done. So once that's done, depending on your processor and the speed of your internet, it shouldn't take any longer than a couple minutes. So the next thing we need to do is generate our Fstab. Now the Fstab is for the OS to find where each partition is located on the disk itself. So the nice thing about Arch is that it generates it for you. Where on Gen 2 you actually have to know where everything goes. So the basic one is genfstab-p. Now if you want unique identifiers or UUIDs for your partitions, you would say capital U, but I'm going to do the basic one. So genfstab-p mnt greater mnt etc and then fstab. So now if we cat this out, you'll see the boot partition and the root partition. So we are good. So once that's done, we can chroot into our system. Forgot to specify. So now we are in our base Arch Linux. So what we're going to do is first we're going to do our host name. So you can say echo archbox to etc hostname. Next thing we're going to do, if we look at our date, you'll notice that's definitely not 2 a.m., which would be UTC time. So what you can do is ln-s, or you could say sf. It's under user, share, zone info. So if you double dealy, you can look at, you can still use UTC, Zulu time. You could pick your country. So I am in America, and then I am near Chicago. And then we want to do that to the local time. So now if we do our date again, you'll see that it is at 8:16, which is correct. So we're going to get rid of that. Next thing we're going to do is generate our locale. Now this is to help with some language support. So in Vim, you do \en US. So if you are in the US, you would want to undo the UTF-8. And I believe the ISO one is for extra support. So if we save that, and now we generate it, so that's done. So we need to put the locale stuff into a folder called etc/locale.conf. Forgot to pipe that through. So now if we cat that out, geez, locale.conf, you'll notice that all of our stuff to get certain language stuff is correct. So the next thing we can do is change our root password. So PASSWD, and just make whatever password you want for the root. Next thing we can do is install Grub. So we say Grub install dev sda. So whatever hard drive you're installing the OS to, make sure it's to the entire hard drive, not to a specific partition. So if you have multiple hard drives, just make sure you're doing this to the correct one. So no 1, no 2, no anything. So you want to do it to the whole thing. So once that's done, we need to generate our config for it. So we say boot grub cfg. And the last thing we're going to do, since we are simulating an Ethernet internet connection, we need to enable Dhcp Daemon to run on reboot. So we're going to say systemctl enable dhcpcd. So now we can exit out, I believe. Yep, I think we are good to exit out, so we'll set exit. And now we want to umount -r mnt. So I'm going to power this down so I can get rid of the installation medium. So I'm going to go to settings, storage, remove, okay, switch. So Grub is installed. So this is the basic boot up process. Now this, you can see all the stuff, so if anything fails on you, you could see it. I'll show you how to do that. So we are in, we have installed Arch for correctly. So what we need to do is create our user. So just to make sure, before we create the user, we'll make sure we still have internet connection. So now if you forgot to enable the DHCP then you just have to enable it here or start it here. So we say user add -m -g users -G wheel group audio video network -s bin bash, and then your user, PASSWD, Irish. Normally I make my password the same as the root, just makes it simpler to remember one password instead of two. So now before we move over to our Irish username, we need to make sure that it has sudo access. So what we're going to do is say vim etc suitors. So we need to search for root. There it is. So we're going to copy this and paste it down. We're going to get rid of that and insert our username. Now you could put it down here in the wheel group if you want, but I just do it this way now. So now we need to save it. Make sure you put an exclamation mark. So now if we exit, go into our newly created user and say sudo su. Awesome, we are in there. So next thing we're going to do is, let's actually go back out, say sudo. So now if we list this out, you'll notice there's nothing in there. That's because we need to create folders, but there is a program called xdg user dirs. So what this does is, xdg user dirs update. So now if we do that, we have our default folders, so you do not have to create these. It's a package that I learned from that in one of Meshy's videos, so thank you for that. It actually helps a lot. So next we're going to get multilib. So we're going to say sudo vim etc pacman.conf. So we're going to go all the way down to the mirrors here, and we're going to get this for lib32 support. Now this is where you would put the archlinux.fr repo in here, but again we're going to do this a little differently. So after we do that, we make sure that we resync the mirrors so that we do have the multilib repo enabled. And then we're going to download a CLI web browser called Linux, and this is what we're going to do to get our Yaourt up and running. So now that we have Linux, say linux AUR archlinux.org. So now we're going to go down until you see the package search. So the first package we're going to do, actually, we're going to quit first. ls make dir build. cd into build. Now we're going to go into it. I just like to make a separate file for all these packages that we're going to build. So now we're going to go down to the search. So the two packages that we need is package query. So we're going to go down to package query here. And then go down until you see download snapshots. Say save, hit OK. And we're going to go back, and the next one is Yaourt. Go down to go. So we do the same thing as before. So Yaourt, download snapshot, save, OK. So now if we hit exit, go to downloads, there's no downloads, so we are good to go. So yeah, we can exit. So now if we list this out, you'll notice that there are two of these. So we need to untar them. So say tar -xzvf package. And then the same thing for the Yaourt. Okay, so we're going to, so now if we list these out, you'll see that there are two folders called package query and Yaourt. So we're going to go into package query first, since that is needed to install Yowert. So now if we list this out, you'll see the package build. So if we say makepkg -s, I'm going to guess is for source, C is for clean, and then I is to install. So if we do that, we are installing it. So the I part is very similar to pacman -U. So it's very similar to this package-any. Oh. So it's package or pacman-u, and then you could say pacman's query. So it's very similar to that. So we're going to go back and now go into Yowert. And now we're going to say the same thing. Now you do have to do package query first, just because that, again, that's needed to install Yowert. Okay, so now that is installed. So now if we do say a Yowert Firefox, you'll notice that we are in the AUR here. So we did that without having to enable a Arch Linux FR, because really the archlinux.fr is only used to download Yowert. So it's like, why enable something when you don't need to? So now we get to go back into sudo su. So now we can install Xorg server, Xorg apps. Oh, getting too click happy here. So once that's installed, I will be right back. Okay, so once that's done, what we can do is get some of our audio. So we'll say ALSA utils pavview control pulse audio. I think that's good. So it shouldn't take too long for it to install all of this. There's only a few more things that we need and we're all set. Now a lot of people think that the Arch install is complicated, but it was at first for me, but you know, if you're on something for about 5 years, it does get simpler the more often you do it. But the first time when I did this, I was like, what do I do? Because it's a blanking prompt. So once that's done, we can install some of our video stuff. So I usually just say Mesa xf86 video. Now I usually do Fesa xf86 video. Now this is depending. I do have an Intel on my laptop, or you could say AMD, or you could say Novus, but for the sake of this one, I'll just say Intel. Now also, if you are on a laptop, you would want to say xf86 input synaptic. And then we'll get a Deja Vu. Deja Vu is a font. So we'll get all of that. There's only 6 packages, so this shouldn't take too long. Make sure also mixer. Let's just do a few of these here. And we'll hit X for exit. Let me see something really fast. 1 second. I have to remember how to do the speaker test. Okay. So what we say is speaker test C3. Now you should hear like staticking, but I don't hear anything through VirtualBox, and normally I don't hear anything. That doesn't mean that it's not working. So if you don't hear anything, don't panic just yet, not until you finish everything off. So the next thing we're going to do is install our OS, or our desktop environment. So say cap-s. We'll do xfce4 meta, and then xfce4 goodies, and then sddm. Forget the 4. Alright. We'll just say plasma meta dolphin and console. For whatever reason, the dolphin and the console are not in the meta package for KDE 5. I don't know why, but you make sure that you do that. And now if we scroll up here, there's 269 packages, so we'll let that go. And one last time, I will be back once this is finished. Okay, so once that's done, we just need to do a few more things. So say since we have SDDM, which is a display manager or a login manager, you would say system ctl enable SDDM. Now, since we have DHCP, I'm not going to do anything, but normally I like to install Network Manager. So I'll install that really fast. Oh, it looks like it's brought in with Plasma. Interesting. So to do that, we'll say systemctl enable capital N, capital M. And now what we can do is hit exit, and now we can reboot. So this should boot us into our SDDM, and then from there we can get to our KDE install. So hopefully this doesn't take too long. Personally, I don't use display managers or login managers, however you want to say that. I just feel it's unnecessary resources for it. It's just simpler just to say start X in a at the default command line. So hopefully this doesn't. Yep. So it is Plasma we're booting into. So yeah, that is for the most part how I install my Arch Linux installation. So if you guys have any questions or anything else like that, please put them down in the comments. If you have any other cool ways that you guys install, like the makepkg or the XDG user DIRs, please put that down below. I'm always interested in other packages to make this even easier to do. I think I might just do one more Arch install, and this would be a LVM Lux encryption, and I'll try to simulate it on UEFI because that's what I have on my Arch Linux laptop. Um, just makes it simpler to encrypt it just in case the actual computer is stolen. It's really hard for them to steal any data that I have in there. I'm going to make 2 other videos this weekend. One of them, uh, a viewer wanted to know about the ZNC, how I set my ZNC bouncer up. Now, ZNC bouncer is an IRC bouncer, so it keeps me logged in to the IRC. So even if I'm asleep or at work, it still shows that I'm in. What I use this for is if I am downstairs in my office on my desktop, I could talk to whoever is on here, and then I can go upstairs onto my laptop and still have the same conversation, see what I said, see what they said, stuff like that. It makes it simpler. I'll try to make that tomorrow. I'm just trying to remember the process that I did it. It was a bit of a challenge to get the ZNC to connect to WeChat. It took me a few tries for that. And then another viewer wants me to do a XFC install on Gentoo. So I'll try to do that on Sunday. And then Accubase from the LDC has a phone, Xperia X, and he's going to do a Sailfish installation on it. He's going to get that back around this upcoming week, so hopefully within the next couple weeks he'll show you how to put Sailfish OS on there, why you want to, and how to get certain stuff working. So look out for those videos in the upcoming days. So hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video, and have a good weekend.